With that, let's welcome in Anthony Esposito, CEO and founder of Capital Investment. And Peter Earle is here, American Institute for Economic Research. Daniel DiMartino is with the Manhattan Institute. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for coming on. Anthony, start us off here. What are you watching for in Vegas? These are some big-name speakers who have got it on their schedule. They want to address the crowd.
Yeah, there's been a real push into risk assets coming off of the recent lows, and Bitcoin has benefited from that. You kind of had a double top earlier in the year or last year above the 100,000 mark at 110, and now we're breaking above that with more of a constructive underlying momentum and trend indicator. So I think there's a lot to be heard from in Vegas this weekend and starting today. I think that if we look at where risk assets are going, there's definitely a move into the cryptos now. And look, let's be honest, the push of the Trump administration behind the asset class has been a very bullish tailwind for them.
Yeah, great point. Peter, the Trump media group saying this, that it plans to raise $3 billion to spend on cryptocurrencies. So you have that statement out there, and then you have Don Jr., you have Eric Trump speaking, and others, obviously, there in Las Vegas on this. What does this mean for the world of cryptocurrency as we await that conference here in Las Vegas later today?
Well, certainly the administration has thrown its weight behind it, and the president's family are also very involved in the business. I mean, I think what's really in our favor in terms of by which I mean the United States, to encourage crypto growth is the fact that we have historically, we deviated a little bit in the last few years, but historically we've been a low regulation environment. Our taxes have been low, and we have institutionalized property rights, all of which encourage owning and running a business here in the U.S. Again, we got away from that for a few years, but I think that those are the very basic elements which will encourage crypto development to occur here. So I think the raw stuff is in place for that to continue.
It's trading well, around $109,000, near record highs, Daniel, when we're talking about Bitcoin. Do you think this is sustainable?
Well, I think it really depends on the political environment. Now that Trump is in office, that was a big boost for Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies in general, because they were discussing even creating a government reserve, obviously less regulation. The Biden FTC had been going against crypto exchanges. And I think that weight was taken off the crypto market. But I think in the long run, it's very uncertain. These are very volatile, assets, speculative assets that are not, real in backing. So it's very uncertain.
Anthony, when you compare what the United States is doing, at least with this administration, of really getting behind cryptocurrency in a major way, I would say, at least more so than we've seen in previous years, you compare the United States versus other nations. How do we compare?
I think that we've pushed harder into cryptos and I think we need to do that as a risk asset, not as a reserve currency. There is no reserve value to cryptos. To that point, the volatility of the asset is just way off the charts as far as a reserve currency. But the push in, President Trump has been clear. We're leading on multiple fronts. Crypto is one of them. And I think behind the scenes and behind this call, if I may, this was a push against a CBDC in the United States, which is exactly 100% the right move. I think the push into cryptos and trading cryptos and allowing that industry to flourish has moved us away from a central bank digital currency, which would be a disaster for this country.
Less than 30 seconds away from opening bell as you take a live look here at the stock exchange. It was closed yesterday for the Memorial Day holiday. Markets reacting, though, to President Trump's announcement that pause on EU tariffs. As opening bell rings, here's what President Trump had to say about those negotiations.
She just called me, as you know, and she asked for an extension on the June 1st date. And she said she wants to get down to serious negotiation because I've told you specifically, but I told anybody that would listen, they have to do that. And we had a very nice call, and I agreed to move it. I believe June 9th would be, July 9th would be the date.
So, Peter, what are you going to watch for as maybe the U.S. and EU is able to make a deal?
Well, certainly I'll be watching for news about any developing trade updates, but also be watching for any sort of reversals we see out of the White House. But also, I'll be looking to see exactly what develops in the next month or two, really until August, in terms of what we see coming out of shipments, what we see happening with container ships, prices over the next few months, because it'll be interesting to see how much with these sort of back and forth withdrawals and changes, nations and the companies within those nations are preparing for tariffs. Some of them have forward ordered goods. Some of them have raised prices already. Some of them are waiting, but it's hard to wait and it's hard to know what to expect when there's extensions and then rollbacks and all that. So I'll be watching the economic numbers and the news out of the White House.
Yeah, and we're talking about a 50% tariff. I mean, that's big, but there's still a lot of time to talk, at least more than 30 days that we know of. Right now, watching the markets, they are open. Trading officially begun. The Dow is up 400 points and the NASDAQ is up almost 300 points. There's still a long way to go. I wanted to bring up Volvo, if I can, Daniel, and close with that. The president taking to Truth Social recently, and he talked about this. He said, this is about the trade deal. He said, countries from all over the world want to make trade deals with us. It's a beautiful thing to see. The good old USA will soon have tremendous growth and be stronger than ever before. So we'll stick with that. We have seen nations, foreign leaders, not only making the phone calls, but coming to D.C., coming to the White House, meeting with President Trump and making investments into this nation by the trillions, according to this White House. Daniel, what do you see for the future?
Yeah, well, the most important thing is whether there is actually a deal, not just a negotiation. My concern right now is that we are imposing tariffs, we're delaying them, but at the end, the EU and the US are not agreeing on a deal, and we end up in a status quo that was worse than the previous one, where there's just more tariffs and everything's more expensive. So hopefully the EU changes these practices. Hopefully the US is also able to negotiate with them, and not just the EU, but other countries, right? Because at the end, the goal should be more free trade, so that we can import things that allow us to build more factories that, remember, it's not just that we want to make things here, but we want to bring in cheap things that allow us to build more things here too.
July 9th will be here before we know it. It's almost June after all. So we've got a timeline. We'll see what the negotiations end up looking like. Anthony, Peter, and Daniel, thanks so much for joining us today.